So, what if I told you there's this ancient toolkit, like 2,300 years old, that's designed to help you handle the chaos of right now? A way of thinking that could make you mentally, well, undefeatable. That's Stoicism. And believe it or not, its story kicks off with a total, absolute disaster.
All right, I want you to picture this. We're going way back to 300 BC. There's this guy, a merchant named Zeno, and Zeno has everything. I mean, he's a fabulously wealthy trader. He's got the success, the money, the kind of life you and I can probably only dream about. And then it all goes wrong. He's on a voyage and disaster strikes. His ship, with his entire fortune on it, just sinks, gone. In a single moment, everything he'd ever worked for, through no fault of his own, just vanishes, swallowed by the sea.
So what do you do in that situation? Seriously, think about it. Your entire world just collapses. How do you respond? Anger? Despair? I mean, for most of us, that would be a totally normal, understandable reaction. But that's not what Zeno did.
Zeno's answer was, well, it was something else entirely. It was so radical, so profound, that it didn't just change his life. It actually lit a spark. It started a whole philosophy that would echo down through centuries, inspiring everyone from emperors to slaves.
Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with that shipwreck and the philosophy it born. Then we'll dig into the core idea, this thing called the dichotomy of control. We'll look at who this was for, and you might be surprised, and how you can actually put it into practice. We'll touch on the 4 main virtues, and then we'll see how this whole thing has a legacy that's still alive and kicking today.
So how does a complete disaster lead to a timeless mental toolkit? Well, for Zeno, it wasn't about getting stuck on what he lost. He actually made his way to Athens, and he just dove into the works of the great philosophers. It's like, from the ashes of his old life, he started building this brand new way of thinking, a whole framework for becoming resilient.
And this led him to what is, without a doubt, the single most important idea in all of Stoicism, the dichotomy of control. It sounds fancy, but it's actually super simple and profound. It's all about separating what you can control from what you cannot. Think about it. Your choices, your reactions, versus everything else that happens out there. This one idea, it's the foundation for everything else.
And this is where we find our power. See, the Stoics argued that our peace of mind, our happiness, shouldn't depend on things outside of us, because, well, that stuff is totally unpredictable, right? Instead, our real stability comes from focusing only on our internal choices, because that's the one thing we actually have complete control over.
You know, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, he just nailed it. He said our main job in life is super simple: to identify and separate things. To be able to say to ourselves, okay, is this something that's up to me, or is this an external thing that's not up to me? And all our power, he said, comes from focusing our energy only on the things we actually control.
Now, this brings up a huge misconception about Stoicism. People hear Stoic and think it means being some kind of emotionless robot, just bottling everything up. But it's actually the complete opposite. It's about acknowledging your feelings, the anger, the sadness, all of it, and then, instead of just reacting, you use your reason to process them and choose a better, more constructive response.
And what's so cool is that this powerful idea wasn't, locked away in some ivory tower for academics. Not at all. The Stoics taught out in public, on the painted porches of Athens. This made their philosophy just radically inclusive. It was for everyone, no matter who you were or what your station in life was.
I mean, just look at the people who lived by this stuff. You had Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of its greatest teachers. You had Seneca, a super powerful statesman and advisor. And then you have Marcus Aurelius, literally one of the most powerful Roman emperors of all time. Think about that. A slave, a politician, and an emperor, all finding strength and guidance in the exact same ideas.
And they were also incredibly progressive for their time when it came to gender. You have to remember, this was an era when women were often completely shut out of philosophical study. But you had teachers like Musonius Rufus who argued, no, virtue and wisdom, those are for everyone, men and women.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? Well, Stoicism isn't something you just believe in passively. It's an active training program for your mind. It's like a mental workout designed to build up your emotional muscle and resilience.
So how does this mental workout work? Well, one key exercise is what they called voluntary discomfort. This means you intentionally do hard things, like take a cold shower or maybe sleep on the floor for a night.
It sounds crazy, but it builds resilience, and wow, does it make you grateful for what you normally have. Another big one is visualizing worst-case scenarios. And this isn't about being negative. It's about preparing your mind so that when life inevitably throws a curveball, you're not surprised, you're ready.
You know, this ancient wisdom is such a powerful antidote to our modern world, isn't it? We are constantly bombarded with messages that we need more stuff to be happy. The latest phone, a fancier car. But as Seneca wrote, real freedom, real happiness, that comes from needing less, from reducing our dependence on all those external things. That's how you create space for what actually matters.
All right, so if you're focusing only on what you can control, what's the goal? What are you aiming for? The Stoics had a really simple and powerful answer for that. They gave us 4 key virtues to live by. Think of them as a kind of moral compass.
So first up is wisdom, and that's basically just knowing the difference between what's in your control and what's not. Then you have courage, which is all about facing adversity head-on. Next is temperance, that's practicing moderation and self-control. And finally, and this is a big one, justice. This is about remembering that we're all in this together, that we're meant to do good for each other.
So why are we still talking about this stuff like 2,300 years later? Simple, because these ideas are absolutely timeless. You can trace their influence all the way from the most powerful people in ancient Rome right up to the very foundations of modern psychology.
27. Just think about that number for a second, 27. That's how many years one of the most incredible leaders of the 20th century spent locked away in a prison cell. Of course, I'm talking about Nelson Mandela. And during those 27 years, he found strength and incredible inspiration from reading the words of, get this, the Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius.
And when he finally got out, my gosh, he had every reason in the world to be filled with hate, to want revenge. But he didn't. He chose reconciliation. He focused on the one thing he could control, his own response, and his vision for building a better future for everyone. It is just one of the most powerful examples of Stoicism in action you will ever see.
And you can see the Stoic DNA, its core principles, all over modern psychology. I mean, therapies like REBT, they're built directly on that Stoic idea that it's not what happens to us that causes distress, but our judgments about what happens. And then there's logotherapy, which is all about finding meaning in suffering, and that comes straight from the Stoic belief that our search for purpose is what drives us.
So at the end of the day, here's the takeaway. Life is going to throw shipwrecks at you. That is a guarantee. The world out there is and always will be unpredictable. The only thing you ever truly have control over is how you answer. So the only real question is, what's your answer going to be?